Hello and welcome to Should You Play, where we highlight the best and worst aspects of video games, show some spoiler-free gameplay footage to whet your appetite, and hopefully help our viewers to avoid that dreaded buyer's remorse.
Today we want to talk about God of War Ragnarok, a game that has been highly anticipated for a long time and has just been released as a direct sequel to the 2018 God of War. There's definitely been a lot of hype surrounding Ragnarok's release, and details about the game have been surprisingly hush-hush. The game wasn't even featured on Sony's June State of Play, and fans did not conceal their disappointment.
This game certainly has a lot to live up to, and we are glad to report that Ragnarok has not disappointed. The game matches and in some way surpasses the quality of the 2018 God of War. So firstly, let's talk about the story. Ragnarok takes place a few years after the events of the 2018 God of War, and we flash forward to Atreus' awkward years full of teenage sass.
The truth is, you're being a complete asshole.
Tattoos, keeping secrets, bad language, backtalking and defying Kratos. And unanswered questions about what it means to be Loki.
We find ourselves thrust in the middle of Fimbulwinter, an early prophetic sign of impending Ragnarok brought on by the death of Balder, which renders Midgard a realm of snow and ice. We follow Kratos and Atreus in their search for Tyr to find out more about Atreus' destiny and Ragnarok, whilst dodging the wrath of Freya, Odin and Thor. Freya, once an ally, is now out for vengeance against Kratos, who killed her insane son Balder. Thor is out to settle a blood debt, and Odin primarily aims to stop Kratos and Atreus from searching for
That one
Tyr.
has to stop his search for Tyr.
It's definitely a very interesting plot, and if you have knowledge of Norse mythology, then you can probably predict certain elements of the story. The game does have a nice recap feature that sums up the events of the first game, but I would highly recommend playing the first game before playing Ragnarok in order to appreciate the story in its full scope and understand characters' motivations.
We see the return of quite a few recognisable faces, with characters such as Freya, Mimir and Brock and Sindri, but also the introduction of some new and interesting personalities, like Durlin, Odin and the much anticipated Thor. I have to admit, Thor's intro was absolutely epic, and if I were to create a video on the top character intros, Thor would be number one for sure.
It takes a lot to make Kratos look powerless and small, but Thor manages to feel intimidating with his weapon, size and unnerving calm demeanour, articulacy and etiquette. It's not often I would want Kratos to run away, but on this occasion I would 100% support that decision.
Are you a calm and reasonable person?
The side characters are bursting with personality, and there are some strangely whimsical moments and comedy that is unusual for God of War. It's also very odd to see Kratos and Atreus do normal things, like sitting down for a nice meal at a table. Not sure why, of course they eat, it's just odd. Can't they at least eat a giant roasting pig on a spit? That would be more in keeping with the perception we have of Kratos.
Anyway, we get to see Kratos and Atreus' father and son relationship develop. One of the most touching things about the first game is that you could see many moments where Kratos wanted to show affection to his son and comfort him, but felt uncomfortable doing so.
In Ragnarok, however, he does put his arm around his boy, show empathy, and the objectives written from Kratos' perspective, like a diary, provides further insight into his psyche. It makes sense that the father-son bond would be strengthened by now, since they went through a lot together in the first game and have had to survive Fimbulwinter and the constant onslaught of angry gods together. We see a slightly different dynamic between them.
Atreus seems more daring, capable and determined, and he is a far more powerful ally than he was in the first game. Kratos seems to trust Atreus' instincts, despite Atreus continually testing his trust by creeping around and keeping secrets. Kratos seems proud of the young man he has raised. Mimir is as amusing as ever and provides a more down-to-earth viewpoint when these two hotheads disagree, evidenced by him giving Kratos sound parenting advice.
Smarten up and walk with him a while.
Anyway, we could analyse these three all day, but let's move on to the combat, which is fundamentally familiar to the 2018 God of War. You have your basic axe melee attacks, axe throw and recall, shield combat, blades of chaos combat, runic attacks, and you can tap into Atreus' skills as backup, which feels just as fine-tuned and satisfying.
And I love that. I love that the combat is recognisable and they have retained the quality, because if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Ragnarok preserves the combat mainstays while introducing some excellent new abilities, my favourite being Stonewall, where you can use your shield to absorb attacks and unleash a powerful shield attack. You can also intentionally power up your axe with Frost and use Flame Whiplash, where Kratos basically windmills the blades of chaos, which is pretty cool. I won't divulge any more, but rest assured that the combat is better than ever, with some recognisable mechanics and some new and exciting stuff.
An interesting new mechanic is the battle indicators. Yellow rings appear around foes when an attack needs to be parried, and red rings appear when an attack is unblockable and you need to evade by rolling out of the way. It's very useful. I think one of the few main gripes about God of War 2018 was the lack of diversity when it came to enemy types. You had your primordial Draugrs, nightmares, elemental ancients, soul eaters, revenants, wolves, hellwalkers, elves and trolls, and although you do see the return of these, the bestiary, or bestiary, however you say it, has been vastly expanded. We now have pesky lizard-like wretch beasts, centaurs and much more that I won't spoil here.
Next, let's talk about the world itself, which is absolutely graphically stunning. Some fans have expressed concerns that the game trailers do not appear to show any graphical upscaling, and now that I've played the game, I don't fully agree with this assessment. The 2018 God of War was graphically impressive, but Ragnarok takes it to another level because the attention to detail is excellent.
One thing that is great about this game is that the different areas you explore and different terrains gives Ragnarok the chance to showcase the graphical quality in environments we've not seen before, and that's really exciting. Even if you haven't played the game yet, we all know that some of the inaccessible realms from the first game are now accessible. We are shown a glimpse of Svartalfheim in the trailer. I have to be honest, I was so impressed with the attention to detail that I slow walked around Svartalfheim for a while just taking it all in. We've also not seen a town like this in God of War before, so that was really interesting.
Like the 2018 God of War, it's not necessarily open world, but there are huge open areas you can explore and different realms. In the first game, Midgard and the Lake 9 was used as a kind of central hub to different realms and areas, but you can now navigate the realms through a mystical gateway directly, which is a great feature and makes travel much easier. The means by which you get to explore these huge open areas is fantastic. I always loved the boat in the 2018 God of War, and we do see the return of this with an interesting new feature where Kratos and Atreus lie down to get under low entrances.
I'm a little disappointed that they didn't figure out a way to enable the player to throw the axe from the boat, but admittedly there was nothing to suggest that they were going to attempt this. I just think it would have been cool and would have made catching mid-flight Odin's ravens easier. The sled pulled by wolves that we saw in the trailer is just genius and handles very well.
Anyways, the world is gorgeous and so fun to explore. It's full of environmental puzzles to solve, things to do, enemies and loot. The environmental puzzles feel fresh and creative and can sometimes be a real head scratcher. The puzzles did make me feel a bit stupid at times, but once you figure them out, it is so satisfying. The Blades of Chaos play more of a significant role in solving environmental puzzles and traversing the environment with their ability to be used as a grapple and latch onto things and pull them.
The Leviathan axe can also be used to freeze water and control its flow, which is very interesting, but does create some Zelda water temple-like situations that make you want to tear your own hair out. Admittedly, I do think this game went a little overboard with the number of environmental puzzles it has, and normally this would annoy me, but I personally find it so fun to figure these puzzles out. Something else I want to mention is that we see the return of quick-time events. Normally, QTEs are off-putting to me, with the exception of Detroit Become Human, of course, but God of War expertly integrates these into exciting cutscenes and battles that make them engaging.
Moving on, let's talk about the user interface stuff. The HUD is extremely minimalistic, which does help with immersion. You are not even given a compass until 3 hours into the game, which I thought was very strange.
Ragnarok's menu screens do look quite sleek, but I definitely prefer the first game. This is merely personal preference, but it really annoys me that the menu navigation bar is at the bottom of the screen instead of the top. I don't know why it annoys me, but it does. It also feels a little cluttered and difficult to navigate, but I think this is just something you get used to. The 2018 game just seems simpler and more user-friendly.
Our only other negative is that sometimes action and abilities can feel a little fiddly and complicated because they have tried to include so much and there's only so many buttons.
So, based on everything we have said and experienced so far of this game, should you play God of War Ragnarok? 1000%, especially if you love the 2018 game. The price is quite steep right now since it's only just been released. Seriously, the price of games these days is ridiculous, but it's worth every penny, and I don't often say that after spending 60 odd quid on a game. There's no buyer's remorse with this one.
Let us know in the comments your thoughts on the game so far if you're playing it, but please keep the comments free of spoilers for the sake of other viewers. This is the first video of its kind to be featured on our channel, so stay tuned for more episodes of Should You Play to gain spoiler-free appraisals of recent, new and upcoming games to aid you in your purchase decisions. I've been Craig.
And I've been Heather.
This is Amalgamingle, and thank you very much for watching.